adding detail, and in this lecture we are going to add details to our bricks. I've been searching for some more reference material and I found some in my holiday pictures. For example, here this is one of a castle in Dieppe in France, and this is a good example of the overall shading of the bricks on a wall. On top there's a light edge here, and on the bottom there's a dark edge. Makes sense, of course, because the light is coming from above. Well, you have all these tiny holes there as well. We're not going to do that in this course, as I said before, because I think this is limestone or something, and all the tiny details is just too much. You'll never see that in the game anyway, probably, or wherever you're using your models for. But as you can see here, when you have a hole, the top side is dark, the bottom side is light. And when you have something sticking out, maybe something like this, it's a little bit flatter, but it's the same principle. The bottom side is dark and the top side is light again. So that's a real simple thing you can use when you're drawing detail into your texture. Okay, let's have a look at another one. You see there's some greenish stuff on the roof. That's what I like a lot, especially for our scene, because it's in the woods. And there's probably a lot of moist in the atmosphere there, which makes a lot of stuff green. It's not very clear, but this is just, I think, a very nice example of an old wall. Keep this in mind. We can maybe use this for our well as well. There's some plants here. It's ivy, I think. Next, this is one in the woods. I like the top part here. Very green, a lot of moss. A castle on the top of a mountain. Red stones and also different stones here. So you can see they built it, probably broke down. They built something else on top of it or something. I don't know. Some bigger stones here. So, okay, that's the reference material for today. So now that we looked at the reference and made up a story, it's an old well standing in the woods, we can start painting. So what I will do is I will start painting and explaining what I'm doing. And when I start repeating what I've painted, for example in the bricks, because I will paint a lot of bricks of course, I will speed up the video. And then I will speed up the video until the end of the lecture, and in the next lecture I'll explain what I did in the lecture before, so that you don't have to scroll to the end of the lecture to get some explanation. You can just skip the lecture if you're done with watching me in the speed up, and when you're in the next lecture I'll explain bits about what I did before. Hope that's clear? So let's get started. First I will select a few faces of the base of the well, so we can mask this out when we're painting on them. So first deselect everything by using Alt-A, and then with Alt and Shift we'll select a few faces, these front faces, so that we can paint on these and mask out the other ones in a way. Now with Control Space we'll focus on this window, and also let's focus on the base, and hit N to show the toolbox. And now we can choose either the soft or the hard brush. I prefer the hard brush, but I'll show what the soft brush does first. So I'll pick the soft brush, and I have to look if it's on line. So in stroke, let's put it on line. Now pick the top color, make it smaller and make it lighter. And then I'll just draw the line in here. And because I'm on 0.7% probably, or 0.7 strength, I have to do this a couple of times. 0.7 strength. So I'll do it again on this side and here, like so. And this gives this very clean and soft transition, but I don't like that because bricks aren't that clean. They're all bricks, they're broken, and they don't look like a reference, so let's fix that. In case you followed along, let's hit Ctrl Z a couple of times. And let's go to the hard brush. And make sure your stroke method is on space again. And let's draw these edges in here. Let's see. I don't think I picked the right color. Make it just a little bit lighter. Let's pick the color again, make it a little bit lighter. Let's draw it in again. Okay, maybe too light, but we can always fix that or leave it as it is. Also draw the sides downward here, but not all the way down, because that's darker. And don't be too precise again, they're still old bricks. So every mishap is an extra, in a way. And here as well, let's put it on full strength, let's see. Because I keep seeing these hard edges. I'm trying to get rid of them. And I still have to brush over them a couple of times because I'm using pressure sensitivity. Okay, so here as well, not all the way down. Now let's have a look at our stroke width. It's pretty thick. It's a little bit cartoonish maybe, that's okay for me. Because I think that's a nice style. If you want to have it less cartoonish, just decrease the stroke width. Maybe too light, we might make them lighter, I'm not sure. Let's just continue for now. And again, don't be too precise, just draw them in there. And enjoy, that's the most important thing. Have fun painting. And some people find this tedious. I have friends saying you're painting bricks for like hours, but hey, I just like painting. And when you're painting the top, be careful, because sometimes when you're painting on the edge, it'll flow over the top. Let me demonstrate that for you now. You see like this. This is not what you want. Okay, Control Z. Let's continue. Okay, now let's pick the color of the side here again and make it darker, because we are going to do the darker parts now. So first we'll draw up a bit here, so let's decrease the strength first. And let's draw a bit in the edges here, so we can get a gradient in there. So we can go from dark to light. And then here, we just draw in a dark edge as well. And I will give the brick a nice shape. Here as well, make the gradient there as well. And maybe you remember the practice sheet where we went from dark to light, or from light to dark. And now we can use that. And that's making it lighter, so let's pick a darker color and make this darker, not lighter. Sometimes look at it from a distance, just to see it in a different perspective, so you know that you're doing it correctly. This reminds me, when I'm doing this, of a trick I have, because sometimes it helps when you're looking at a lower resolution texture, or sometimes it's also something you want as end result, but you can still work on a high-res texture and make it low-res later on. If you want to have a look at that, go back into your normal view, and then instead of going to the tool panel here, go to the materials panel, and then under color, let's make this a little bit bigger. We have here the image texture we are using, and it says here on the color, we have here linear. If you click on that, we can also choose closest. And you don't see a lot here now, but when we go to the preferences, and then let's go to viewport, and here we can lower the resolution of the viewport itself, and that's more something about the edges here of the meshes. And we also have a textures part, and here we can lower the resolution of the texture. So limit size is now off, so it's as high as the texture that we made earlier is. It's showing the full resolution. But we can also put that on a lower resolution. So for example, we can put it on 512. And you can see it's already more pixelated, but when you put it on 128, for example, now you really see the difference. It's very Minecraft-like. And one thing that you do see now is that the edges don't have enough bleed. And that's the edges here. So the color isn't bleeding enough over the edges of the UVs. And that gives this dark edge on the model. That's something we can fix later. There's a trick for that. So 512 is looking like this. It's a little bit less than the full resolution, of course. And sometimes it works when painting. It just makes it a little bit easier or different to look at. Just something you can play with. Let's put on 1024, even better. Let's turn it off. So we are looking at the full resolution again. Set this back on linear again. And let's go to the full view. And something I almost forgot was adding ambient color to our well. How we can do that. Remember from the references with the wood, where the dog and the trees were a bit greenish. That's something that happens when something stands in the wood. It picks up the colors from the leaves above it and from its surroundings. So we can paint either everything more green, or a trick I learned from photography when doing touch-ups is color in only the highlights. It's a very easy trick. I'll exaggerate it a bit here and do it with a kind of bright green. I'll just add the green in here. When you look at this, it looks like as if the whole model, or at least the bricks now, are greener, but it's just the highlights. It's just a small trick. So when you want to add ambient color to a model, you don't have to color in everything. You can also only color in the lightest parts. Okay, let's undo that for now, because I want to do it in a different way later on. Control Z a lot of times. Another thing we can do is make the darker parts darker as well. It's not for the ambient lighting, but just because there's probably a little bit more moist in there in these creases. So we can make it a little bit greener, and that'll bring these bricks a bit more to life. So just demonstrate it. I'll paint it in here now. Maybe I'll use it, maybe not. Not sure yet. So let's just paint it in here. That looks pretty good to me. You see, it just adds a little bit of life to it. Okay, that's it for this lecture. Next lecture we'll continue with the wood. Bye bye.